This essay example, as well as thousands of others, is available in text format on our website for free and without registration. Simply Google Ivy Panda Free Essays.
The responsibility of educating a child falls on both the parents and the teachers. In most instances, teachers are always trying to get the parents to be part of their children's education. On the other hand, parents tend to handle any communication from their children's teachers delicately. For instance, notes and phone calls from teachers are a cause of serious concern for parents. Furthermore, whenever parents do not hear from teachers, they often assume that all is well with their children. Therefore, it is likely that students will be at a disadvantage because of the lack of communication between parents and teachers. Consequently, it is only natural for schools to teach moral values to students. Schools are relied upon by the community and parents to instill and reinforce moral values among students. Teaching moral values to students eliminates the bias that is common with children from different backgrounds. Some students could be major beneficiaries of a school system that teaches moral values as they lack this foundation at home. Therefore, schools should teach moral values to contribute to social and educational harmony. Schools are mostly public or privately owned institutions that are expected to pass knowledge to students. Consequently, when schools are given the role of teaching moral values, this job is passed on to either the government or a few individuals. Most people feel that when schools teach moral values, the government is the organ that dictates what should be taught to students. Teaching moral values that are set up through government institutions elicits sharp emotions among various individuals. On the other hand, most people are aware of the fact that parents teach their children moral values at a very tender age. Therefore, there is a possibility of moralities clashing when schools start introducing opposing points of view as part of the student's curriculum. The dominance of personal opinions among various teachers presents a challenge to the validity of teaching moral values in schools. Schools should not teach moral values because this creates several dimensions of conflict that involve teachers, students, the government, and parents. Those people who support the argument that schools should teach morality are of the view that it is futile for students to gain all other skills in life and end up lacking in moral values. Consequently, students will go to school and learn scientific applications, events in history, and how to calculate, among other skills. However, this knowledge can be highly improved by a student's ability to express honor, kindness, empathy, and integrity toward others. Therefore, when schools teach moral values, they create a worthwhile balance in the students' lives. Furthermore, when too much value is attached to results and achievements, moral transgressions are likely to occur. Teaching moral values in schools does not involve a tyrannical activity that is engineered by the government and other forces. Moral curriculums can be developed jointly by the staff, parents, sociologists, religious leaders, and other stakeholders. Consequently, a moral curriculum does not only consist of controversial biases, as most people believe. The fears that moral education can be easily hijacked by third parties and individuals with self-interests are unfounded. For instance, in schools where moral education is instituted through a joint effort, positive results are achieved. The relationship between moral values and the education system is far-fetched. Moral education is more aligned with culture than it is related to the education system. Furthermore, all education systems are streamlined and standardized. Moral values and systems are flexible, and it is unlikely that a standard education curriculum can accommodate this flexibility. For example, accommodating moral education in the school system would mean that different students receive different types of education by their cultural backgrounds. Those who argue in favor of moral values being taught in schools claim that students need more than formal education for them to be good citizens. However, there is evidence that indicates that the most valuable citizens are the ones who explore and question authorities with the view of understanding the basis of rules and laws. There are concerns that most moral curriculums are only meant to suppress the curiosity of the citizenry to subject individuals to imperialist regimes. Moreover, political and economic factors are more likely to influence the moral behaviors of children in school systems. The debate on whether schools should teach moral values to students stretches far and wide. One school of thought believes that it is not the school's responsibility to teach morality to students. On the other hand, another group feels that an educational experience is not complete without moral values. Some are concerned teaching moral values in schools undermines the role of culture in students' lives. Furthermore, it is often argued that teaching morality would create confusion in schools because different students subscribe to different moral systems. This latter view is opposed by the argument that not all moral values are subject to controversy. Proponents of teaching moral values in schools also point out that this system has proved to be helpful in the past. If you want to find more works like this essay on moral values in education, head over to ivypanda.com. It has a collection of samples with thousands of submissions covering virtually all academic subjects.